Hello and welcome. Welcome, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, Mr. Tom. Hello, everyone. Anyone who's not too shy to come on camera, let Tom be your guide and do what Tom does. Be on camera. If you don't have a camera, understand that. Um,
Do everything Tom does?
do everything Tom does. That's my rule. Let's see. And also, Genesis team, please watch notes for me, and you tell me if anybody says anything in notes, convey that to me, or speak up. And anybody who's joining, thank you and welcome. If you are able, if you have a webcam and you're not too shy, love to see your face. We like smiling faces. Was there a chat of any kind, Jenna or somebody?
Yeah, it said please unblock Stephen from my office to join in. But I imagine is Stephen, are you in now?
Do you see us, Stephen?
Stephen can. Oh, they're saying no, Stephen's not in.
I
So
don't I don't see
they're
anyone in the waiting room.
right.
Maybe Stephen could leave and come back if he's having trouble on. Hey, Kim Miller, how are you? If you don't want to talk, you can do thumbs up. I do that a lot. Thumbs up. I like it. Yeah, we need Stephen on here, so keep watching chat, Jenna, and see if there's anything there. I'm not seeing anyone in the waiting room at this point.
It says the host removed you from meeting. But yeah, Barbara, I think that if Stephen can try to leave the meeting and come back, can give that a try.
Yeah, I think that might have been earlier, possibly. So
He
hope
has
everyone's had.
tried to leave and come back in. Sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. Try to leave and come back in. Um,
Well,
he
he
has
has.
tried. Yeah, I am not seeing anyone in the.
Why don't you put the link in there, Eddie?
Well, they're clicking on the link to come in.
I just wanted to make sure it was the right one.
Yeah, because I think if I'm not mistaken, he might have been somebody joined an hour early just to be safe, and I let him in the meeting then, but then it was another meeting that I was in, so we talked a second, then I dismissed him. I think that might have been him, and if so, maybe that messed things up somehow. That's weird that he can't get back in. Does anybody have any advice on that? Somebody want to chat GPT that. Because I think that's very unfortunate. Maybe he could join from his phone. I hate that, um, or something, some other through some other way. Because I'm not seeing him show up. So sorry about that. I apologize. So thank you all for joining. This is going to be super informal. I think every one of our webinars are super informal, though. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to have Jenna. I think Joe is going to share his screen, and Joe, you can do that whenever you're ready. And Joe is going to take us, kind of walk us through what it's like to use the TurboRater inside of JenesisNow. Um, and he'll talk this through, and if anyone has questions, you can either chat. Wait, somebody's coming in. There he is. No, that's somebody else. Sorry, got excited. Unless that's him with a different name. If anybody has any questions as Joe is going through this, just speak up. Either type it in chat or um, speak up. Take yourself off of mute and ask any questions you have. Because at the end of the day, we're just wanting to show you how it works. If you have feedback, questions, thoughts, comments, we want to hear those. And hopefully, you guys that are not using this will see value in what we're showing you today. So, Joe, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about the embedded TurboRater and some recent changes we've made with that. So for those that aren't aware, comparative rating allows us to get initial quotes from carriers for both personal, auto, and home. At least that's how we have it set up, without having to go to the carrier websites directly, at least right off the bat. You can get an initial quote in the comparative rater, and then it allows you to bridge that information from the rater to each carrier website, and then you can fine tune the quote from there. So yeah, it just depends. Raters aren't for everyone. Some agencies really like them and lean into them. Some just prefer to quote with the carriers. So we make it an optional add-on. Obviously, the agency management system is our core product, but you know, if you do want to try this is something that we have really a few different options on. But today we're going to be specifically talking about the TurboRater, what we call embedded rater, where you would pay us, and we can add that into your Jenesis monthly billing. That's nice. We do have some other comparative rating options that really involved you going outside of Jenesis to pay for that, and then we just simply provide the integration. So the goal in doing this is to just give more people the opportunity to do comparative rating with Jenesis, and then to make it really easy from a billing perspective to consolidate all the billing with us. So you guys can see my screen here, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Everybody? Okay, cool. So what we're doing, obviously this is a client profile in JenesisNow. I'm thinking everybody on this call should be familiar with what this looks like. But if we come in here and we click on a policy or quote, we come into the policy or quote screen, really depending on how you have it statused. But and if we come up here, you can see that I have TurboRater as an option right up here at the top in orange. This is going to be available for both auto and home. I'll just keep things simple and we'll show you the auto example today. But what we would do, this would open up TurboRater, and it allows you to take the information from that policy screen and you can push it into the rater here. As you can see, the contact information for the individual was brought over. All the coverage limits that I had set up in Jenesis that were brought over. And then most of the driver and vehicle information will come over as well. Now we're not 100%, they get a little bit more specific on the occupation and education level than we do within Jenesis. So most of this should come over from Jenesis and be filled out. This here, I have a fake zip code. That's why it is not populating correctly. But if I plug in a true zip code, obviously you can see that corrects it here in real time. And then the last thing that I need to fill out from this screen is just the vehicle purchase date. So again, not a ton of information that you're going to have to manually go in here and update. Most things are going to be brought over from JenesisNow. And what we can see is we can move through different tabs here, and there may be some additional underwriting questions here. And you can just work your way through these tabs. And again, you'll just be prompted and it'll stick out to you in yellow if there's anything that needs to be addressed on your part. But you can go through here, work your way through these tabs, and slowly we'll get down to a comparison and breakdown section. And what this will do, I'm not an appointed agent currently, so we're not going to get any real rates here. But you can see that it's going to list all the companies that I'm appointed with, assuming that they work with TurboRater, and it should give us an initial premium. So again, I'm not able to really show you that in real time since I'm not a real agent. This is a test environment, but you say you would get, you're appointed with Progressive, National General, Travelers, and Safeco. You would see all those companies listed here, and then you would have a premium amount or a quote amount that would display over to the right. And then you can bridge that information from this platform over to the carrier and fine tune the quote, run the motor vehicle report, whatever you need to do. So it's really nice. Obviously, this gives you a preliminary breakdown as far as who's going to be the best option. And then it makes it to where you only have to plug in information one time. You're not going to have to go into these carriers one by one and plug the same quote information. You can just bridge things over from here. So again, this is something that we have available for both auto and home. Same process applies for homeowners. You would take the information from here and just simply push it to the rater and do your initial quote. It is important to point out that this is our JenesisNow YouTube playlist. Just like every other feature in the system, we have instructional videos So you guys can get help, whether it's just working with the rater itself or even setting it up. And of course, you can reach out to our support and training teams to get assistance with that as well. So yeah, again, this is something that for the longest time we only had it available for auto insurance, but we've recently added the ability to do home. And that's why, as you can see, these are in order of things that we've added most recently. These videos were just created here within the past 24 hours. Another important consideration is you want to make sure that the carriers that you work with are going to be available in the rater itself. So you can come in here, we can provide this to anybody, but it's also available with a quick Google search. We can click on any state here and you can see which companies will present rates, assuming that you're appointed with them for both auto and home, state by state. Another thing, just to show you guys a full workflow, we've recently integrated Jenesis with our website offerings, or with any website, whether it's with us or not. So you may have already seen this, but just to give you a full workflow example here and how someone could bring a prospect into the system and then, do a quote. Anybody that submits submits their information or a quote request on your website, we can add a contact form, and you can see we provide you with the embedded quote or code information here. So you can do this whether you have a website through Jenesis or not. But if something is entered on your website, that information will display here, and then you'll be able to status them as a prospect, add a source, and they would flow into the agency management system. Now, outside of this section, you can add a dashboard card that'll show you here, where it'll give you an idea if any quote requests have come in. So you can see I have a quote request card here that'll give me a heads up every time someone submits something on our website. Obviously, as we just saw on that previous screen, if I have them status as a prospect, then if we do have a sales pipeline set up on the dashboard, as you can see I do here, we would see them fall into this prospect card. So you could set up a sales pipeline on the dashboard in a lot of different ways. I have mine pretty simple. It's just 3 different levels: prospect, pending quotes, and quotes. So obviously, as we switch the client or policy status from one card, or as we're working with them, we would see them move from one card to the next. And as we've seen in other dashboard cards, or as you guys have may seen working with Jenesis, you have plenty of filter options here to adjust what you want to see. So yeah, that's just the full workflow example. You could see people flow into the website, then fall into your pipeline. And obviously, as you're working them in the pipeline and putting them possibly in a pending quote status, you would be going through here and switching the client statuses appropriately. And then you could take that information that was started or that submission on your website and push it into the rater, as we looked at before. So yeah, anybody on my team, is there anything else that would be worthwhile showing everybody on this call?
Not for me.
One thing I'll mention, and I really like seeing all that, Joe. Good job. The one thing that did occur to me, especially as because you showed the core piece about the TurboRater rating. The data's in Jenesis. It goes out to however many carriers you might be rating with for auto or for home, and it brings the rates back. But then you kind of went a little further and you said there's this new feature that's in Jenesis that you could also use with or without the TurboRater, by the way, and that's to collect the quote, allows you to put the quote form on your website. And Joe, there's no extra fee. Like Jenesis, that's part of the general, that's what they're paying for. Is that right, or is that wrong?
Correct. Yeah, there's no extra fee currently to linking your outside website to the system here.
Okay, so and we can help them with that, but they can essentially have a form on their website. People go to the website, they fill out the little form, that data flows into Jenesis, so now they're not having to key the quote in that case. The thing I would mention that made me think about what you said was also this TurboRater integration would work well for renewals, because
yes,
if the renewal is sitting here and it's ready for an upcoming renewal, it's the renewal offer, then I can click on the TurboRater button and I can rate this potentially with other carriers to see if I want to recommend to my insured that they stay with who they're with, or if I propose to switch them to somebody else, right?
Exactly. That's a good point. So there's a lot of ways for us to monitor renewals in Genesis now. We could go and run a report, but you could also set up a dashboard card here titled Pending Renewals. It's going to give us a snapshot or highlight of information around policies coming up for renewal. It's even going to calculate a premium change, given a red value for an increase, green for a decrease. And what we can do is you can configure this dashboard card in whatever way you want. As we've seen in other cards, you can go in and adjust the filters based on what you want to see. Plenty of options in here. But say you have a quote or a policy that's coming up for renewal and you see a big premium change here. Well, most likely you may want to look at that and requote it. So you can just come in here, click on this policy, as Eddie was stating, and then you can still push it to the rater. So that's a very good thing to point out. Doesn't need to be a brand new quote. You can easily, monitor things from the dashboard as far as upcoming renewals and just push things to the rater for, making sure that you're retaining that business if there is an increase.
We had a guest on the podcast last year because at Genesis we've got agencies from startups to agencies that have been around a while, and so smaller agencies, larger agencies. And one of our longtime customers, their philosophy is they rate every single renewal. And over the years, that's been debated a lot for agencies where they would say it's really not worth the time to potentially put them with a different carrier for less than they're paying now. So essentially, I'm working pretty hard to lower my commission because I'm going to get them a cheaper rate. And I'm not really going to say much about what I think is best, but the agency in the podcast, you should check out the podcast off our website if you've not seen it. It's a $35 million agency. So I tend to look at agencies and people that have done things well, and model after them. And if they're doing that, there may be something to that. Yeah, I like that a lot. So somebody said we set up a price point to shop every renewal. I like that. Because right there, Joe, did you say that a second ago? You got the premium change that shows up there on the dashboard. So I
Yes,
think
sir.
what they're saying in notes is in chat, and I love that. If the change is $20, why bother? Probably that's not on the customer's radar. But if it's a larger change, then my insured may shop with somebody else if I don't shop it for them. Okay. Does anybody, or is that it, Joe?
Yeah, it's pretty much everything I had to cover, at least anything I could think of. I know we came into this expecting it to be somewhat informal, but
Yeah.
to me, I think that's all the big relevant stuff for people to consider is just making sure that the carriers that they work with are going to show up in the rater.
Yeah.
And then just understanding that it's going to take some time, just like any new technology, to get things set up and implement it correctly. Raters aren't perfect. If you've worked with raters in the past, they have their own set of considerations, right? So we really want to use the rate that's presented in the rater itself as like our starting point or an estimate. Because once we bridge that over to the carrier, we could, see that rate adjust potentially due to the carrier accurately factoring in their true credit score. So um, so yeah, they're very helpful. I used to be in a position where I was a national broker where I was licensed in 40 states with probably just as many companies. And in that situation, you have to live in a rater, right? Because you don't have the ability to be an expert in each one of those markets. And just the efficiency of being able to bridge over my top 3 or 5 carriers or my top 3 or 5 quotes instead of having to type them in one by one, saved me a tremendous amount of time.
Yeah, you're right. And I think it's important for people to know that the rate is a ballpark, but it would often be good at pointing you in the right direction of which carrier might be the least expensive if that's what you're looking for. But the other thing it's doing is all of those rates that you've gotten back, now all that data is on that carrier's site. So it's easy to click a button, go over there, tweak it there, and get a confirmed rate really quickly instead of going manually one at a time and entering each one. And I think it's important, too, to think about the most efficient workflow in growing the agency and being efficient with it is you're entering the data or it's coming in from the website. You're clicking the button to get the rate with several carriers. You're verifying the rate, bridging out to the carrier with one click to make any tweaks to it and do that kind of thing. And then the cool thing is now, even if the client today doesn't say, yeah, I'll go ahead and let's bind that, Now it's in the system, so hopefully everyone here has got all the automation turned on inside of Genesis. So now it'll continue to follow up with those people that have called in for a quote. So you increase your chances of writing them tomorrow, next week, next year, even if it's not today. What is the cost of the rater, Joe or Jenna, whoever wants to speak to cost? And then I've got a special offer for everybody on this call. I've got a special offer here in a second. That I love special offers. It makes these calls more fun. But Joe or Jenna, cost?
Yeah, we charge $70 a month for the first user and $30 a month for each additional user. So one user you'd be at 70, two would be at 100, three would be at 130, and down the road. So.
Okay.
And we had a question before that too, Eddie and Joe. It's from Kim Miller. It seems that the rater works for existing clients. What if I have a brand new prospect? Will I need to key them into JenesisNow first, then use the rater?
Yes, you always start the process, or we recommend starting the process in Genesis. That way they can fall into a pipeline, right? And as Eddie was mentioning, you can have like automated marketing campaigns that are reaching out to that prospect as well. So you could technically go directly into the rater if you really wanted to, but since you're having to type the information in once anyway, we recommend that everything starts in the agency management system. So again, they fall in your reporting, your pipeline, as we see here, in those automated marketing campaigns. And then you can, again, easily just push things into the rater as needed. So always good to start from here. Eddie, would you agree?
Yes, I agree. Always start from the
Sweet.
AMS.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of cool with that other tool that kind of pushes them in if the prospect is going to the website. You're welcome, Kim. That was a good question. Thank you for asking it. Does anybody else have any questions? We've seen how it works. We've talked about the pricing. It's $70 for the first user and $30 for additional users if you have, depending on how many people in your agency want to have access to this. Can you repeat the special? I haven't told you what the special is yet. I'm getting ready to tell you what the special is in just a second. I'm making you hang on just a second for that. So would you put in chat, please, if you are not using this currently? How many people are not using this currently? Just say not using. I'm curious because I think there's some people on this call that's currently using this and some people on this call that are not using this. You're going to love my special offer in a minute. And by the way, the people that comment may get a special offer, a double special offer. So we got a few people not using. All right, yeah, quite a few not using. One more post, and then I'll tell you what my special offer is. Would you like to use this? Do you think this is beneficial? Just say something that would like to use it, or yes, or and if your answer is I'm not seeing value in it for some reason, tell me that. I'm always interested in people's honest opinions. Okay, cool. Okay, good. And I'd love to see somebody say not interested because of something, because I'm always interested in that concept of what people might be thinking about. Not seeing that though. That's okay. Jenna and Joe, here's what I'd like to do for a special offer. Now, let me ask this question. See, nobody's asked about would like to see the carriers with Rater. Would like to see the carriers.
I can provide that link for them.
Okay. Can you put it in the meeting right now, maybe?
Yeah, I'll do that right now.
Okay. So Joe's going to post the link in the meeting chat to the list, so you'd see what raters are in your state. You can click on your state, and then it'll show you the raters. So thank you, Joe. Do what, Lisa? I'm sorry, Lisa. I didn't understand what you said.
You're saying raters or carriers?
Somebody asked, I think, what carriers are available.
Carriers.
Rater,
okay.
And I think Joe just posted a link in the meeting chat so folks can click on
I was
that.
just saying you had said raters, and it was really
Okay.
carriers. That's all.
Yeah. I want to see what carriers are available in which state. So my next question is, and I'm surprised nobody's asked this about the setup. Lisa Gibson, you're probably the best suited for this question. If someone says, yeah, I want to do this, did they set this up? Do we give them a video how to set it up? Is it easy? Do we help them? Do we hold their hand? How does that work?
We turn it on for them, and we'll email them with, letting them know it's turned on. There'll be videos and then a link to one of the trainers to go over how to use it
Okay.
if they
So
would like that.
So hand holding is needed, right?
Yes.
Okay. Then Jenna and Joe, here's my special offer. I would like to give anyone who wants to do this, if they want to kind of sign up, and I don't think there's an official sign up, right? It's just them say, yeah, let's try it, because people can cancel at any time anyway. We don't at Genesis. I was talking to an agency the other day that's wanting to move to Genesis from Vertifor or Applied One, I think, and they're locked into like a 6-year or 4-year contract or something. Joe and Jenna probably remember that one. That's bizarre to me. So we don't lock anybody into anything. But anyone who wants to try this, let's do it for 3 months, absolutely free. And at the end of 3 months, if you don't want it, you turn it off. And at the end of 3 months, if you're loving it, you keep going, and then you start paying. And that could be one user in your agency, or it could be 10 or 20, depending on how many agencies you have. You good with that, Jenna? That deal? We didn't talk about that before the meeting.
I think that sounds great. Yep.
Okay. We really would appreciate feedback along the way. So anyone who signs up for this, love for you to please use it. That is one thing we see happen sometimes. Because it's a change in your workflow, there's the risk that you get it set up and then you're going to start using it Monday or next week or the week after, and you don't force yourself to go into it. So I would force yourself to use it for the first week, and then it'll become fast, efficient, and it'll be a habit. Thank you. I appreciate you guys thinking that's a great offer. It's hard to beat free. Jenna, what do you want? What do they need to do? Do they need to send sales@jenesissoftware.com an email or what?
Yeah, let's do that. I think that'd be best. I can put it in the chat here. It's just sales@jenesissoftware.com. And anyone who wants to, take an opportunity at this offer, if you could just shoot us an email there, we'll take it and we can get you set up today, if not tomorrow.
And the way we'll treat this, everyone, including my sales team, is and you guys, you great customers too. If you sign up for it, we'll treat it like we'll plan on starting adding it to your monthly draft in 3 months from now. After 3 months, you get 3 full months, so it'll be the month after that. But if you decide between now and then, it doesn't work for me for whatever reason, then we won't do that. But Jenna, I'm saying that mostly so you guys would set that up. In billing, you'd have it set up to kick in month 4. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds great. We have a question here. None of our homeowner carriers are on the list, only auto. I believe that's what she's saying. Is that weird or normal? Louisiana is always difficult.
That's normal. For the most part, carriers, if they coordinate with one rater, they'll do it with others. So you'll probably find the same if you look at other raters, that you're just limited based on the carrier selection for home. As you said, it's just, somewhat of a unique situation in your state. Most people, I feel, quote with the carrier or with a comparative rater for auto, since you're still going to have to go to the carrier site and do the home rebuild estimator, whatever they're calling that for each carrier. Each company is going to put a different rebuild cost, obviously, and want you to do that on their site. So I think the home rating, it comes a little less into play than the auto because of that. Hopefully I'm making sense there.
And Tom, I see your comment too, and I get that. If your top 2 or 3 carriers are not on there, I would look at it like this: if I'm pretty much just rating with 3 carriers and those are not on there, then I really wouldn't use this. I guess if I were rating with 2, if 2 or more of my carriers were on here, then I probably would. But if that's not the case, then I probably wouldn't do it. If 2 or more were, even if it wasn't my top 3, I might still do it, just because it's easy to transfer the data and it's there and you're not having to enter it again. But I get that. And unfortunately, this is a Xywave product. TurboRater used to be ITC, and it's completely out of our control. Otherwise, we would say, hey, let's put a ticket in at Genesis to add these other carriers, but we don't have any control over that. Okay, well, I appreciate everybody's time. Is there anyone on the call that has any questions? I'm really excited that everyone was here. I hope this has been worth a half hour of your day. St. Patrick's Day, too, by the way. Hope everybody got my email explaining what St. Patrick's Day was and how it can benefit you as an agent. So I appreciate my team. I thought of that. I wrote that blog yesterday morning on my couch, and they got it published yesterday. So I was impressed that they got that out that quick. It was a last-minute thought. So
nice. Just to point out here, if someone wants to see if they will add a carrier, I think they do give you the option to recommend carriers that you could potentially want added to your state. So you can do that all from this carrier list that we just provided in the chat. So who knows how quickly or if they do follow through with that, but at least you can try to submit that over and make a request.
cool. Thank you, Joe. Okay. Yeah, make sure if you want that link that Joe shared earlier, you get that out of chat before we end the meeting, because then the chat will go away. So if anyone doesn't have anything else, we'll part ways. It's so good to see everybody. I love these. It's nice to be able to see some names on these calls. A lot of sometimes repeat names and repeat faces. I like that too. So hope you all have a great rest of your St. Patrick's Day, and we appreciate you being a customer way more than you know. We appreciate it. Take care, everybody.